Hello, friends. Back again. Coach Kirsten here with Whole Life Freedom. And today we're going to just be talking about some reasons why you might still be tired even after rest, and getting a wholeness perspective to that, what your body and your soul, your spirit might be trying to tell you. I don't know if you've ever even taken a whole day off and still felt exhausted, maybe coming back after a vacation, maybe even going and taking a nap. Do adults still do that? I do. But it seems like rest isn't restoring you, or maybe just waking up from sleep and feeling exhausted. And if there's one thing that I have gone down a deep, long journey on, it would be the journey of fatigue and all the multifaceted natures of it. When I was in college, I was young and bouncy and full of life, and double majoring on the triathlon team, leading Bible studies, working a job. I don't even know how I did that. And at some point at the end of my fourth year, I completely crashed, and my whole body just shut down. I couldn't think clearly. And I was the type that really loved school, and I was so fatigued, I had to take a semester off, and we went through all these different areas, different doctors, books, and research, and Dr. Google wasn't quite as around at that time, and so we were just going from specialty to specialty. I pulled out all of my books and got different books and researched and began learning about nutrition and diet and mindset and movement and all those things, and began to learn all the way back then how stress affects the body, how there are many different facets to fatigue. And if you know my story, you know that about 10 years later, something very similar happened under different circumstances, and my whole body shut down. And that one took a little longer to recover from. Maybe because I was older, maybe a lot of different things, but it's been a long journey of roughly 25 years of study on the body, the mind, the heart, the spirit, and how our bodies can do a lot of different things. But as a culture, we're very reductionist theory. And you've heard me probably say that, but reductionist theory is when we say, oh, you need vitamin C, take this pill of pulled out, reduced to vitamin C, instead of eating the whole orange, the apple, the celery, the greens, the spinach, the kale, all the things that bring you all the nutrients that your body needs, not just one reduced component separated out from all of its friends. In the plant world, you need all those nutrients that come in an orange, not just the vitamin C. And so, that's where we get into trouble when they say, oh, vitamin A can help your body restore. But we also know that too much singled out vitamin A can be very problematic for the body and for the system. And so what we want to do, though, is go, okay, what foods contain vitamin A and vitamin C? And we want to go deeper into that. So this isn't going to be a nutrition lesson, but it's an example of how we have majorly reduced things to singular components. If I'm fatigued, then maybe I need to drink some coffee, or I need to take a rest, right? And maybe I need to do such and such. But what if it's not just one component? And what if we can continually look at ourselves as whole people? In Eastern culture, if you're a Christian, you know that Jesus came from Eastern culture, and Jewish culture specifically was very rooted in the understanding that we are whole people, body, soul, spirit. Our emotions affect our capacity to have energy. Our thoughts affect our capacity to have energy. So there are a lot of different hidden roots to fatigue. Nutrition is just one component of it. Now, I always recommend to those struggling with fatigue to get a full blood panel, get the main things checked out, because there are little things that can be done to help your body recover quicker and better. And that's why I went down the road of nutrition coaching and understanding nutrition and getting certified in that originally because I really wanted to understand it and to be able to help people. But the further I went down that road, the more I realized there were so many more complexities than just simply change your diet. And even after I had cleaned up my entire diet, very clean and all of that, there was evidence that my body wasn't absorbing the food. There were things that just didn't make sense, that even coffee couldn't wake me up. And, of course, now, I recommend that if fatigue is truly a problem, that the first thing to go should actually be coffee. But it also tells you if there's a balance or imbalance in your system. If coffee's not working, that's a sign that, okay, we probably need to take it out and pause and do something a little different. That doesn't mean I just need 2 cups instead of 1. That's actually what we would call taking from the bank. We are taking from the bank of energy that your body naturally produces, and we're creating a deficit. And so therefore that deficit just continues to grow. But okay, this isn't just a physical nutrition component, but tiredness or exhaustion is not just physical. Hopefully I'm getting that to you. And this is, again, something that I have had personal depth of experience. And because I'm a researcher, probably read over 100 books on various points of view on this topic. You can be physically tired from doing too much in your life, not sleeping well, from not enough nutrition and components, but you can also be physically tired from constantly having to make mental decisions, racing thoughts, you can be physically tired from having an emotional experience. Maybe you've had a lot of grief, stress, anxiety, fears, and it's causing your physical body to feel tired. You can also be spiritually tired from maybe even just disconnect and not feeling connected. You can feel like maybe you've been battling spiritual battles if you've experienced that. But maybe there's also the components of just not feeling connected to God, not feeling that joy and that inspiration, that place where you're in His presence and being rejuvenated by Him. But here's one that doesn't often come to the surface or become made aware. You can also be physically tired because a part of you doesn't want to move forward for some reason. And this could be for many reasons, but one of them, we have talked about this in several videos here, but freeze response. The freeze response is essentially this place within your nervous system, your limbic system, part of your brain that says, I am on overload. This is too much. And it's safer for me to just shut down right now. And that's an innate response. It's a great, beautiful response in certain times of our life where we really need to shut down. And what can be happening is that you might be in a freeze response that is from 5 years old. Maybe you picked up that pattern as a child during certain times of life because it was important. It doesn't even have to be overly traumatic, but it can be a certain time of life where that was a pattern that you picked up that worked. Let me just shut down. Let me shut down and we'll get through this in a better way. And then what happens is later on in life, you've forgotten about those moments, you've forgotten about those patterns and those things, maybe not. But then something fairly similar comes along in your life that can look similar. Remember, 5 senses, it can look similar. It can be the same color. It can smell similar. It can feel sensation-wise similar, and it can sound similar. So it can taste similar. You can have a certain type of food that triggers those things. It can just simply trigger those moments, and you may or may not be aware of what it's triggering. Years back when I was trying to build a different business, I was noticing I would get really fatigued. Like my brain would just shut down and I would need a nap in the process of building. And when I would look at all the practical things that I was doing, they were things that I should be able to do and move forward with. And I would become so fatigued. And I realized as I went through some healing process that my brain and body were associating what I was doing with something long ago that didn't really seem to match up. And as I got that healed, then I was able to go, oh, this shutdown is actually a shutdown. It's not actual fatigue. And learning to find those differences can be very profound. So as you can see, fatigue can actually be deeply multi-layered. There can be a lot of stress, and stress can come about mental stress, emotional stress, physical stress, working out too hard for your body. You can't compare your types of workouts to anyone else. It can be spiritual stress. Maybe there's a lot going on. If you are a feeler or a discerner, maybe there's a lot going on around you with the people around you or in your house or in your atmosphere. And maybe you're discerning that and your whole body experiences that. If your body is the physical house of the Holy Spirit or the presence of God, he says, I dwell in the hearts of men, then the heart of your body, your body is housing the Spirit. And so there could be elements that are spiritual that are wearing you down physically. Remember an inner healing session I did many years ago, and it was very draining. And what was so interesting afterwards is I craved this big meal, and I was like, that is so odd. And I asked the Lord about it, and he said, because you did a lot spiritually in that session and your body is tired from it. So how do we take all of that and synthesize all these pieces? Okay, it could be trauma from my past. It could be exhaustion in my present. It could be any number of things. What am I missing? And that's where I love to just kind of put on my little Sherlock Holmes hat and go, okay, where do we bring these pieces together? So sleep alone doesn't fix this type of fatigue. You usually can know that, oh, if I just get a good night's sleep and I can overwrite an exhausting week, and if that works, then you know that it's not all these other pieces. That's a great thing. But this type of fatigue that we're talking about is rooted in places in the nervous system, the soul, and the spirit. So we need healing, not just rest. Okay. And so one thing that I like to think on, and one phrase I want you to think of, is that fatigue is your body's messenger that something is off. Something might not feel safe. You might be overloaded in some area of your life, but you also might need a reset. So fatigue is not your enemy. It's not something that you need to fight. Boy, I wish somebody would have told me that years ago. Fatigue is not your enemy. It is a messenger simply saying something is off, I'm not safe, I'm overloaded, or I need a reset in some area of my life. And those messages might be coming from past wounds and trauma. It could be coming from chronic stress or regular stress in your present season. It could be coming from unresolved emotions that you have forgotten about. And that's where working with a coach can be very helpful. I've had my own coaches that have just helped me unlock those places. And the energy levels that I have today are because of those breakthroughs. And it can also be a place of spiritual disconnection. And this is why I love looking at the whole body, the mind, the heart, and the spirit, because healing in one area opens it up to others. But, you were not designed to kind of look at one area and go, okay, fatigue means physical. Fatigue means this. Remember, it's a message. It's a signal that you're receiving and going, where is that message actually coming from? When we think of like a submarine going underwater, it's sending out a radar signal, a pulse signal, and that signal goes out pretty far to be able to feel and sense and become aware of what is in their surrounding place. And when we're experiencing fatigue, it's kind of like a signal coming from somewhere saying there is something off in the systems that I'm experiencing. So the key is to now come to a place of always recognizing you're a whole person. Don't just come at it from a physical standpoint. Oh, I need to change my nutrition, do some movement, take a nap, and do some, put my feet in the grass. All wonderful, wonderful things that help support you. But if they're not shifting things, we might need to look at some other pathways to restoring your systems and remembering they're all interconnected. And so what can you do when you are tired, exhausted, but not just physically? So these are some of the things that I work through is one, regulating the nervous system, helping your nervous system come into that place, because the nervous system is so important in helping heal the body, heal the mind, heal the emotion, and it allows the whole body and all the systems to begin to feel safe again. And safety is a huge foundation for restoration. And so we've got to start asking, what does your nervous system feel safe in? And how can we create that environment regularly? So different pieces, breath work, regulation, also understanding what causes your nervous system to overregulate and be overstimulated, and not avoiding those things, but learning how to become resilient in those environments. If I avoided everything that overstimulated my nervous system back then, I would have never gone anywhere. So it's not about avoiding stress or avoiding triggers. It's about healing them and becoming resilient in them so that we can actually thrive in and amongst those places. And then another component is releasing emotional weights that you might be carrying. If you think of what Jesus tells us in Matthew 11:28, "Come to me, all you who are weary and carrying heavy burdens." Those are not just physical burdens. Those are emotional, mental burdens. And some of us have been carrying those burdens since we were 1 or 2 years old, and we don't even remember it. 3, 4, 5. And then some of them were from last year. Some of them are from right now. And this is where places like EFT, clinical EFT, has been so profound for me, blended with inner healing. Practices like that can go into the deep places of inner healing that help your body and your mind release those stored emotions. Things like journaling and reflection, things like breath work, and things like connecting with God around those pieces. Don't avoid those places. Let him in to those places so that any places where your body or your mind have been holding emotional weight can be released from you. And then coming back to this place of reconnecting spiritually with God. There is actually a place where sometimes fatigue is actually a spiritual cry that says, God, where are you? I need you in this season. I remember one time reading Hebrews 4, and I think it was in the Passion Translation. I like to look at different translations, and it said that your word brings me energy. And I sat there and went, that's interesting. What would happen if I read the Bible, the written word of God, from a place of gaining energy? And I always read the Bible, but sometimes I realized in that season, I was just kind of reading it like a book. And if you haven't done, deeper biblical meditation, I encourage you to go check that video out. I'll put the link in the comments of just allowing the word to refresh you and strengthen you, allowing your heart to come to that place. And I put that one third intentionally because I know, even though I would say, our spiritual health and our spiritual walk with God and our word is so important and so key, as I've mentioned so many times, though, that when we have physical, emotional baggage, it is hard to hear the voice of God. It is hard to connect with him in those places. So we invite him to come and heal those places. We use tools like clinical EFT to release that emotion from our body, somatic experiences, doing movements that help breathing and calming our system, nervous system regulation tools, so that we can then enter into a place of peace and hear his voice, reconnect our heart to his word, to his spirit, to his voice, and allowing that space to come to being in his presence that can really reawaken your spirit and your passions. Because doing something that your heart is passionate about, that God has created you for, can also be a deep place of realigning your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual energy levels. We'll talk about that at another video, that how realignment with who God has called you to be can awaken your energy levels, because that's who God has created you for. That's who your heart was made for. Even your DNA can experience a breakthrough. And when all three of these pieces are integrated, our nervous system regulation, releasing emotional weights that we might be carrying, and connected with the spirit, we start to see true healing unfold. So, my friends, if you have been feeling like something deeper is just off and you're experiencing fatigue, I want to just let you know that fatigue is not failure. You're not in a state of failure. It's your body and your heart asking for care. And so the good news is you don't have to stay stuck here. God has designed your body to heal in the right environment, and he has designed your spirit to be alive inside of you. You're allowed to rest. You're allowed to restore. Wow, and you are allowed to come back to life. And so I just breathe and release that restoration, that rewiring, that rest, and life and thriving over you. So my friend, I just want to encourage you. I have a 5-day peace challenge, and I would love to invite you to it. It's free, and you can actually jump in at any time, and it will help you reconnect with God, your body, your heart, and allow you to start stepping into that place. And of course, I have other workshops, and if you'd like to even connect with me one-on-one, feel free to check out the links below. I'd love to walk with you alongside that, or continue to release these videos to help you and encourage you. So God bless, my friends. I bless you with strength and renewed energy,